How to elaborate your outline. Part 2. Analytical phone. Welcome back. If you're watching this video, it's probable that in the first part of your outline you identified a problem. In a certain way, you were posing a cause and effect ethical dilemma. For purposes of the outline, we will call the effect problem. This means that in your paper you will have to develop the causes of the problem and offer an ethical solution. So, let's try to identify these two aspects in the first part of your outline and or re-elaborate them. Now, let's choose a common problem to exemplify the procedure. Do you remember the topic that we chose in the last video? Yes, it was process automation. Perhaps you can also remember that one of our questions was how to reduce the negative social impact of process automation. And its answer was, I think that process automation may have a negative social impact on workmen due to the lack of regulation and educational inequality. In this sense, I would suggest allow that forces enterprises to have a minimum of employees and enhance technical education so future workmen can face process automation. As you can see, in our question, we identified a problem. Process automation has a negative social impact. However, it is a little bit general, so we should be more specific and state why the person's integrity and dignity might be violated. We can say that the negative social impact of process automation is that workmen lose their jobs and reallocation is not always possible. This entails a social problem, for it is not only the worker who is affected, but also his/her family, wife, husband, children, and in some cases, his/her parents. Now, pause this video and identify the problem that you posed in the first part of your outline. You must be careful because you could have mentioned it either in your question or in your answer. Some questions that can help you to identify the problem that you posed are: how is people being affected? How is a person's dignity being affected? Check that you described thoroughly which is the problem. If you need to be more specific, do so. You may pause this video now. The following step is to list the causes of the problem. Some of the questions that we may ask to identify them are: which is the historical background? What originated the problem? Why does a problem exist? In the example of process automation, we mentioned the problem in the question. Therefore, this time we should analyze the answer. As you can notice, we said that the negative social impact of process automation was caused by two factors: lack of regulation and educational inequality. These two factors are the causes of our problem, for they answer the question, what originated the problem? At this point, go back to your outline and identify the causes of your problem. You should have between 2 or 4. If you don't have any or you're missing some, try to find them. If you have more, choose the most important ones and reduce them into 2 or 4. Of course, you can search some information on the internet. Nonetheless, avoid using Wikipedia and blogs. Remember, some of the questions that you may ask yourself in order to find the causes are: which is the historical background? What originated the problem? Why does the problem exist? You may pause this video now. The next step is to find an ethical solution. That is, a solution which tries to reinforce the person's dignity and integrity. What is important to remark here is that there should be a correlation between the causes of the problem and the solution that you offer. Let's take a look at the example again. In our answer, we already offered a solution. We said, I would suggest the creation of a law that forces enterprises to have a minimum of employees and a high technical education so future workmen can face process automation. As you can see, there is a correlation between the causes of the problem and its solution. We mentioned that the negative social impact of process automation was caused due to lack of regulation. So in the solution, we suggested a law. We also said that it was caused due to educational inequality. Thus, in the solution we suggested that it would be important that the law also forces enterprises to enhance technical education. Furthermore, notice that our solution is centered on the person's minimum number of employees and education for them. Please go back to the first part of your outline. Try to identify if you offered a solution. If so, check if there is a correlation between causes and solution, and if your solution is centered on the person's dignity. If you don't have any solution, elaborate it. You may pause this video now. The next step is to enunciate the ethical relevance of your problem and ultimately of your paper. Of course, here's a tip. Your problem is ethically relevant because it is centered on the person. Check your problem and underline the elements that are at stake. Then you should ask yourself, which virtues, values, and/or rights are jeopardized? For example, in the case of process automation, we spoke about jobs and the way families are affected. Thus, our ethical relevance could be stated as follows. The implementation of process automation puts at risk some human rights, such as the right to work, the right to protection against unemployment, and the right to a standard of living. Nowadays, it would be almost impossible to stop the technological development of industries. However, it would also be important to guarantee the inclusion of workmen in society. As you can notice, we pointed out the ethical relevance of our paper by underlining the human rights that might be vulnerable. Take a look again at your problem and identify which rights, values, or virtues might be jeopardized. Then, elaborate the ethical relevance of your paper. You may pause this video now. The final step is to choose your title. Think about something catchy and original. For example, technological development, human development. If you think it is very general or it doesn't address properly your paper, you may add a subtitle. Let's say, Process Automation with an Ethical Perspective. Pause this video and think about your title. When you have finished, continue watching this video. You may pause this video now. So, here's a summary of what you have done. 1. You identified your problem. 2. You analyzed the causes between 2 or 4. 3. You offered a solution which had a correlation with the causes of the problem. 4. You stated the ethical relevance of your paper. 5. You chose a title. Now, go to the template called Analytical form and fill in your outline. Don't forget to bring 2 printed copies for the next class. In case you need it, at the Schoology, there is also a sample of an outline on process automation with an analytical form.